Welcome to the Kyle and Jim Fantasy Football Podcast Extraordinaire.
Thanks everyone for tuning into the second half. Enjoy the show. Next section, it's the Faab. We got a wild one this week. So the big spend of the week was Carson's. He drops $20 on Cameron Dicker, the kicker. No one else even bid. Could have gotten him for $0. Could have just taken any other kicker, since it's a kicker. I gave it a big old 2 thumbs down. Gotten this one as the worst spend of the season. Naturally, I wrote this down. Then he plays. He's the highest kicker of the week. But Carson's didn't even believe in him that much because he didn't bet on him.
Yeah.
Mike was the one who believed in him. He could have got him. Well, I guess he couldn't have got him because
right? Yeah.
I guess Mike couldn't have got him unless he spent $21.
If you would have spent $20 on him and then bet the Faab for him,
yeah,
I would have said, it's a thumbs up. You just knew it, man. Like you put your money. I mean, yeah, you're net negative 15 from your decision, but I mean, you proved everyone right or proved everyone wrong by taking Dicker the kicker, and then him scoring the most. But he didn't. If I had more thumbs, I would say more than 2 thumbs down. It was. I don't think you should ever pay for a kicker. It's just not worth it. $20 is a lot, even though I know he didn't spend much money already this year.
I don't think he spent any.
I mean, I was looking at the kickers today because I was thinking about dropping mine to pick up something better. And there's 4 or 5 kickers. I'm like, I could bid $0 on all these and be happy with every one of these over mine. So there's a plentiful option in the free agency for kickers. So yeah, spending $20 on a kicker. I hope this might be the last time we ever see more than $1 on a kicker. But prove me wrong.
Yeah. We should see if we can get Carson's on next week to explain himself here. This is just a wild Faab spending. It's like, I haven't spent any money. I need a kicker, $20. Click it.
Maybe he meant to do 2 and he added a 0 on accident. I'm just trying to think. He seems like, I know he's been kind of new to this. He's been only playing for a couple years, but I think he's seen kickers aren't that valuable, right? So he knows they get drafted near the end of the draft. We don't really have anyone drafting kickers in the 7th round or 8th round anymore. I think we've had that before, but people are pretty standoffish. They know to take them near the end of the draft, so you don't spend money on them either. So maybe it was a misclick.
Yeah, no, that one got me when I saw it. Half me was like, what if we just spent that just so we would talk about it? Because there's no way that's getting ignored. That's just too wild.
That's probably the craziest thing that's happened in the league so far by most standards. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll message him. I'll message him and see if he wants to come on because I am very curious about what happened. He's got a wedding this weekend though, so we'll see what his availability is. If he can't do it, he can't do it.
We can always do it the next week too and just bring it up.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really look back to see how active he is on the waiver wire. And honestly, he had Narvinson, and he's been rocking him all year, and he just got cut from the Packers. So he needed to get a kicker.
Was McManus already picked up? Why didn't he just pick up McManus then?
Yeah, he could have had McManus.
You think maybe he just saw the name and he just I need it because the guy's name's Dicker the kicker?
Yeah. It's got a sweet nickname.
Yeah.
You can make some fun team names out of it too if you want.
Right.
If ESPN allows it.
If he did the $20 bet and then instantly changed his name to kicker, then changed his icon to something with Dicker the kicker in it, then I'd been all for it. But he had a lot of potential here to go really into this, and he didn't.
Oh well, what are you gonna do? So the next spend we had this week was Dearness Johnson, Jacksonville running back. Went to Mike for $10. He actually dropped Derek Carr to get him. Congrats, Mike's finally off the car train. The car, whatever you want to call it. He's abandoned Carr. Carr's injured. I don't know when he's coming back. I didn't really look into it. But it didn't sound like it was a season ender, so he will be back.
No. I don't think you can put him on IR. It might just be a 3-week thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Next highest bid was 6 by Scoots for a spot start this week. I didn't think it was bad. He put up 70 yards. Tank Bigsby pretty much stole the show. But with ETN out, $10 running back, he was starting them. When I saw D Johnson on Mike's team, I actually thought was it Deontay Johnson?
Oh, the receiver?
Yeah, but he's not on Jacksonville. He's on Panthers. But I forgot. I always confuse those 2 teams for some reason. They
came out the same year.
Cats. They both stink. Yeah, that's who I thought I was going against, and I realized who it actually was. I was like, oh, it's the other running back there. Anyways, it was $10. He got a start out of him. He got 8, 9 points out of him. I don't know what the total was. But I gave it a thumbs up. He needed a person in the starting lineup, and he got one. How it goes going forward, I don't know. When ETN comes back, you got ETN and Tank Bigsby. I don't think I don't think Johnson's going to get really involved at all. So it's probably just a 1 week rental. But sometimes you need them. $10. Take a stab at the
Um,
win.
they might trade ETN, I think. It would make a lot
Hmm.
of sense. So if they trade ETN, then yeah, Dearness probably has some standalone value. Um, yeah, for a spot start, if you need somebody, $10 is never going to be a bad thing. Dearness Johnson played pretty well, like you said, 70 total yards, had around 8, 9 points. Uh, that's pretty much what you want in that situation if you're looking for a 5 week fill-in type player or fill in an injury player. Yeah, normally you're probably used to getting 15 points in that slot, but you're going to knock it down to 9, 8 points. As long as you're getting around that, that's pretty much what you're expecting. You're like, okay, this guy might not have the touchdown upside of my other guy, but if you can give me the yards, I'm happy. It's not going to kill my week. So yeah, thumbs up.
Agreed. I'm kind of glad Carson's blew that money on the kicker because otherwise there wasn't much going on the waivers this week.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty boring one.
Yeah. The only other notable one I had was Dak got picked up by $1 by Scoots. Richard rage dropped him after his terrible game against the Lions, and he was heading into the bye. But I gave this one 2 thumbs up. I think Dak should be on someone's roster. He hasn't been great this year. I don't know if he's a fantastic NFL quarterback, but when they get their passing game going, I mean, he last year he had so many games with just him and CD. He's just chucking the ball to CD all game, and he was racking up pretty monstrous fantasy, production. That I don't think he should be sitting on the waiver. So to get him for $1, I think is really good.
I mean, simple as this. Like, he's not injured. He still has his number one target. They still have a lot of talent on their team. They're underperforming, but there's no like real big reason. Like, Pat Mahomes is pretty obvious why he's not playing well. You got to think Dak going into the bye after getting completely embarrassed at their home field. They're going to come out with a new like sense of urgency. I expect them to turn around a little bit. Teams don't just look that bad with that much talent for that long unless something bad happens. So I think you'll see him turn it around. Dak will probably be a relevant player. He's proven over the last 8 years. He's generally right around like the quarterback one level pretty much every season. So
Yeah,
pick that guy up on the free agency week 7 for $1 is pretty valuable. Yeah, he's looked pretty bad this year. I don't think he's probably even anywhere close to a top 12 quarterback right now, but you don't care what he did before, you care what he's going to do after. We know with Scoot's situation, he obviously had Anthony Richardson. That didn't work out very well. He traded for Pat Mahomes. That doesn't look like it's working out too well. So take on the other guy who's not working out too well. And hopefully between those two, he can scrap together a solid starting quarterback. Or, just hopefully maybe Dak just takes it over and ends up being really good for the rest of the year because Dak has proven to be a top 3 option at points in his career when he has everything going. So yeah, thumbs up to me.
yeah, same thumbs up. I think Dak was actually probably quarterback one for like the second half of last season, and he was just
Yeah,
on a
he's
tear for the second half of the season. It started kind of middling, but yeah, I mean, when they turned it on, he was unstoppable, and that's why I think CeeDee Lamb got drafted so fucking high this year because the end of the season with those two was just looked unstoppable.
kind of remind me of some of the later seasons with the Seahawks, like Dak's career, where like Russell Wilson was like never one of the top guys. But you always have these like stretches where it's like, man, if this guy can just do it for the whole season, you have like an easy QB1. He's got enough mobility to get some points on the
Hmm.
ground to keep his like floor pretty high, and then is getting you 3 to 4 touchdown passes a game, plus has the ability to get you big chunk plays, which is generally what you want, like 50-yard touchdowns. And Dak has that with CeeDee Lamb. So he has the pieces and elements to be that type of player that Russell has been in his career. Again, it just hasn't all come together this year. So give it some time.
We'll see. That's it for Fab. I didn't notice anything else. There's a bunch of really low spend ones, but I didn't really feel like getting into them unless there's anything that
Yeah.
piqued
No,
your
nothing that
interest.
I want to talk about. I think you hit them all. Like it was a pretty
Yeah,
lackluster free agency period. There wasn't any like real big name players available or
yeah.
anyone dropped anyone that everyone else wanted. Things are tightening up a little bit more. People are making better decisions with their players because it's probably more simple to be like, okay, this guy sucked for 4 weeks. It's not like, oh, this guy sucked for 2 weeks. Do you want to drop him now or maybe a little bit later? So we're not going to probably see too many active free agency wires moving forward.
This week might be interesting 'cause there's a lot of people that have not that spent very little, and there are a lot of injuries this week.
That's true.
So
The
I'm
Niners
not
receiver
saying if you have a
situation.
lot of money, blow all of it, but keep in mind if you're still sitting at like 80 plus, half the league's probably at like around 30 and they cannot afford to spend, you know, they might not want to blow a third of their fab on somebody. So if you got 90 bucks, there's options this week. Some of them are going to be, spot starts, several week rentals because some of these guys are going to get back, but some of these guys are out for the season, which
Yeah.
will lead us right into the injuries here. Number one, I had Jane Daniels. He hurt his ribs. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't think they're broken because it sounds like it's day to day, so probably bruised. Probably gonna be a pain tolerance thing for him. I worry how much he'll run when he comes back because these rib injuries, you don't want to get hit with them. I've seen running back stuff get these before, and they wear like those flak jackets under their jersey, but I don't think a quarterback can do that and throw the ball. So he won't be doing that, and I don't think he's going to want to be taking hits for probably at least a month or so. But he's also been a great thrower, so
Yeah, maybe they just have him sit in the pocket a little bit more instead and not run as much. That could hinder his, ability. Obviously, he relies on his rushing and mobility to make plays down the field. So it'd be interesting to see how he performs if that would be the case. But yeah, I don't know enough about the injury to know exactly how long he'll be out or even what to expect. I know they're saying day to day, but like you said, rib injuries are tricky. So
yeah.
it's one of those ones. If you have them, you just got to pay a lot of attention to the news that comes out for him throughout the week. And as we mentioned before, Thursday is the main day. See what happens
hmm
Thursday. If he's getting a full practice on Thursday, he's going to probably play. If he doesn't, probably won't play.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, because like I said, the offense kept humming with Marcus Mariota, but they are playing a good team this week. They're playing the Bears. They have a pretty stout defense, so they got some decisions to make over there. Next injury, we had Brandon Ayuk. He's out for the season. Tore his ACL and MCL. Season ending. He might be back to start of next year. He might miss part of the start of the season. Um, I'm happy I got paid. I hate for these guys to never get the big contract before an injury like this happens, then just get fucked with I got my rookie money, which is still a shitload of money, to me or you, but these guys deserve to get paid. They're entertaining tens of
He
millions of
was
people
he
every
was
week.
right to hold out, right? Like this
Yeah,
was he was close to having a lot of money lost and he fought for what he deserved. He got it. Unfortunately, the bad thing happened, but I
that's why they
mean,
fight for it because they know
right.
this might happen, and then they get nothing.
And now he
So
might be not even ready for the start of next season and you got to be concerned about, what he'll be in the beginning of the season. So like as a draft pick next year, he's probably going to go in like, sixth, seventh, eighth round or something, depending on how late he starts in the season. Cause he didn't even look good this year so far. So I think he had like one game all season that was even like remotely startable. So
yeah,
yeah, it's been a rough year for him. So hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. We do get to see him, week one next season. But yeah, I think he's going to miss a couple games going into even next year. He probably won't be 100% until midway through the season.
yeah. Next up, we had same team, same position. Debo Samuel. He has pneumonia. Pneumonia. I mean, it can last a week. Sounds like he had it this game. I mean, he was on the sideline with oxygen. Like I think he tried to play.
Had to play and he was like out of breath instantly. So they
Yeah,
had him with the breathing mask. Yeah, that's why I think they pulled him. It's like, dude, you can't run a route without having a gas or mask on. We can't have you out there.
yeah. I mean, these guys are young, athletic dudes. He might be fine by next week. If I have pneumonia, I'm probably out for a couple weeks. But these guys are much healthier than I am. So
Yeah, I'm sure they got a lot better drugs they can
yeah,
get
and
access
better
to.
doctors, and yeah, I
Right.
mean, better
A lot
everything.
of good
But
things. Get IVs pumped to them all game before they go out
yeah,
or before the
so
game starts.
he might be back next week. I would keep an eye on it though, because pneumonia is not. It can last a little while, and if you can't breathe, you can't really play. Same team again, different position. Tight end Kittle hurt his foot. That one's day to day. Keep an eye on it. I don't know what else to say about that one. Not much updates on it. We had DK Metcalf. He left the game. He's day to day with a leg injury. All I saw was leg injury. I don't even know to what it is exactly.
Figured you would know more being that he was on your team, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
heard
should
like a
look
leg
into it.
injury and he left the game, but I don't know anything about it. I mean, I heard it wasn't supposed to be that severe from the reports I heard, so hopefully you can play next week. But yeah,
I hope so because I'm strapped at wide receiver. Things aren't looking
right,
great
it's the
at
last
wide
position you
receiver
can
position.
afford
I
injury.
know. Lost Rashi Rice. I cannot afford to lose DK. At least it's not a season ender. That would sink me. Next up, we had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, both Buccaneers, both hurt on Monday night. I don't know exactly what the severity of these ones is. Sounds like Chris Godwin's toast for the season.
Oh yeah, he's out.
Yeah, he's out.
He
Okay.
messed up his. I think the same almost situation as Ayuk.
Okay. I wrote this up this
Um,
morning. So this game was only 6 hours
yeah,
old at the time. I wasn't really sure what was going on.
yeah, it was pretty much right away. They knew it was going to be bad. Um, Sucks for him because he's a free agent. So
Oh.
he is the opposite of the Ayuk situation. He was
Mm-hmm.
just about to get paid, probably get paid very big. Ironically, the last time he was up for a contract, I think he got injured right before too. Because then I think the Buccaneers re-signed him and they got
He's
him
been a
at a
buck.
slight discount.
He's been a buck his whole life or his whole
Yep.
career,
And a
right?
lot of people
Yeah.
thought he was gonna leave, and then he got injured, so they got him at kind of at a discount because he got injured, and now it just happened
Mm.
again. So and he was on track for his best season of his career. So I mean, yeah, I feel for the guy. He's a really good player. He seems like a guy that you can cheer for and feel okay about it. It sucks to see him go down and having a severe injury this late in his career.
Yeah, Mike Evans. I believe for him it was his hamstring. Apparently, he was hurt coming into the game, but he was deemed, capable of playing, and now he re-aggravated it. So that's
They
not
said that
great.
one's minor too, so he probably will be back next week from what I was reading. But again, it's this year is just no one's speaking the truth on injuries, so
Yeah,
be
you don't
concerned.
know. And you hope he comes back. So both those guys are out. I don't know what Baker's gonna do. I don't know what the Buccaneers are gonna do. I mean, that was a dynamite duo they had there, and to to lose one sucks. To lose both is devastating. I think the offense grinds to a halt if they're both gone, and
Yeah,
you can
it's
only next man up so far.
I think you're gonna see how good Baker really is. If he
Yeah,
can keep the team afloat with 3rd, 4th, 5th string receivers, that's gonna be really impressive for him. If he can't, I mean, if he can't elevate the players around him, I mean, that kinda shows you where he's at as a player. So, we'll see right away if that contract that the Bucks gave him was worth it.
yeah. I mean, even if he can't keep it up, I wouldn't say that means he's not good. I mean, any quarterback. I mean, besides like Mahomes, I guess if you lose your two top wide receivers, you're gonna struggle. Your offense is gonna struggle.
Yeah.
Luckily, the Bucks they have a bunch of running backs that are all looking pretty good, so they do have that. But yeah, it stinks. Oh yeah, and the last one I have here is not an injury actually, but Jamison Williams, wide receiver for the Lions, suspended for PED violation. What's going on here, Jim?
He's not
This
suspended
the
yet.
Lions secret for
He's not
success.
even on the thing. He's on the list yet. They were talking about this morning. It's kind of weird. They haven't suspended him yet, technically. So the pause makes people think that it might not happen now. So I'm not really sure what's all going on there. These are the type
I saw it
of
on Reddit. I didn't
yeah. Well,
fact
I
check.
think they said these are the type of ones that are just like powder that people use, like for working out. So it's one of those suspensions that it's like anyone could probably have this happen to him. It wasn't like he was like really juicy. I mean, look at the guy. It doesn't look like he's taking a steroid in his life. He's like skinny as hell. Um, yeah, I mean, it would be a big disappointment if he got suspended again already for multiple games. These ones again, PED violations are pretty minor. It's almost like a hey man, how do you even get caught doing this stuff with the NFL? But we'll see. Like I said, it hasn't been official yet. It's been on Reddit. That's where I read it too this morning, and I was like, waiting for it to get official, like post about it. Never got it, and that's when everyone started questioning it later on
Mm.
this day. So we'll hear more hopefully soon.
I think it must depend what drug they detect in you too, though. I think it was DeAndre Hopkins when he was on the Cardinals a couple years ago. He had like an 8-game suspension for PEDs. I don't
Yep.
know what he
Yeah, I
was
think
using, but that's a lot longer than 2 games. That's half the fucking season.
yeah, I think they kind of go off. If it's something you could accidentally take, yeah, it's only like a couple games. Like, come on, man, you gotta be better about that. It's not a slap on the wrist, which I think this kind of was. But again, it hasn't been official yet, so maybe that means it's going to be longer. Who knows? So
Mm,
if it's longer, that's going to be really concerning. And maybe that's part of it too. He's a repeat offender because he got suspended for the gambling. So maybe they're like, oh, this maybe isn't a 2 week suspension. So maybe they're trying to figure out a way that because like, okay, you've been suspended for gambling.
could
Now you're
be.
getting suspended for PD. Does that mean you should be suspended for a repeat offender situation and then get more time? Because that's kind of what they do. But is he really a repeat offender? Because even the way he got suspended for the gambling thing was pretty much like bullshit. And I think the NFL even kind of admitted it. That's why they reduced his first suspension. So
Sure.
it's a really weird situation with him. It seems like it's another really minor thing to suspend him for. And I think the NFL is being a little bit cautious on how they approach it.
Yeah, I get that. We'll see what happens. I thought like I said, I read he was getting suspended for 2 games, but I did not fact check it. I just took it as a fact. But there's
Sorry to know
something going
everything
on.
about the Browns starting quarterback in here.
But our what?
The Browns starting quarterback, Sean
Oh,
Watson.
yeah, I don't wanna talk about him. He sucks.
I had a great line for it too. I was waiting. You didn't have him on there. I
Uh,
was a little disappointed.
alright, so yeah, Deshaun Watson exited the game. He tore his hamstring, so he's out for the season. He'll probably be
Yeah.
out for the start of next season. Doesn't have that crazy Aaron Rodgers hamstring that can heal in 3 months.
So what I was gonna say, I had it all planned. I was gonna say, unfortunately, sometimes bad things happen to good people. This wasn't one of those times, but it's a good thing to know. I saw that on Reddit. It made me laugh so hard. So I was like, I'm gonna bring that to the podcast. They didn't even mention them. So all right, throw it up.
Yeah, that guy
It wasn't my thing
doesn't
anyway. I
deserve
saw it on
airtime.
Reddit, so you guys can enjoy the Reddit post that I saw.
I mean, the Browns fans, they booed. He was getting carted off, they're booing
Oh,
apparently.
did you see the
So
Jameis
they're
Winston
not.
thing?
No.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Can we play it on the podcast? Because we want to get like in trouble for that. It's only like a short
No,
clip.
we're not monetized, so I think we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Here's how I
The
get
worst
this
thing that'll happen is
going.
it'll get taken down if someone hears it, but I don't even think that's gonna happen.
I'm gonna see if I can make this work.
I mean, I can cut it in post-production. I can just if I can find it, I can clip it
Well,
and throw it in there.
why don't you go listen to it so you can just react to it then.
I mean, what should I Google to
I'm gonna send it to you.
okay.
It is so funny. So you got to take the context of like you know what this guy did. So you know why people booed him and cheered for him that he got injured, right? But a
Yeah.
lot of players got upset because they're like, that's my brother. That's who I play with. Like, that's disrespectful. But it's like, this is a different case, a different situation. Well, Jameis Winston, we'll just say, is completely clueless to all that. And his little tangent is quite amusing.
Here's, Jameson Winston for everybody. Enjoy it.
And I do not want the treatment that Deshaun Watson has received from these passionate fans. I know you love this game. When I first got here, I knew these were some amazing fans. But Deshaun was treated badly. And now he has to overcome another obstacle. So I'm going to support him. I'm going to lift him up. And I'm going to be there for him. Because I see the way he fights. I see the way that he works. And I know who he is as a person and as an NFL quarterback. And that's all I have to say to address him. I'm sending up my prayers. I already prayed for his leg, and I will continue.
Nice.
I'm sending out my prayers. I already prayed for his leg. He's like trying to cut a WWE promo in
Yeah,
this
I
thing.
know,
He's
right?
like so passionate about it. And it's like, dude, you're so
Trying to be,
off
yeah.
base with this. But I mean, he went off. He's just Jameis Winston eating W's, in every situation of his
I love
life.
that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the ones that blew up on Reddit was that video. And I watched it like 3 times. He's so amusing the way he talks, his passion for it. And it's just like, dude, you're so off
I mean,
on
Jameson Winston, didn't he have some, like, sexual harassment, assault type
yeah, he
shit when he
like
was in
sexually
college too?
harassed like an Uber driver or something like that. He also
Yeah,
stole crab legs from a grocery store when he was going to school in Florida.
yeah.
Like
And
they
that I don't
caught
give
him
too
on
much of a
tape.
shit about, but
Yeah, they like, caught him on tape and then they pulled him over and they ended up making him like let him keep it and everything. It was just like oh, you're this famous quarterback. We'll just let you steal our draft picks.
It's good. It's good PR if you just let me take them.
Right. I'll make you money.
Is he their starter now? I didn't actually look at who they put in because
They
they have
had
another
a
guy there
different
too,
guy
right?
as the number 2, and from what the rumors are, the other guy wasn't necessarily the number 2. They did it that way because they didn't want the fans to freak out and cheer for Jameis to start. So Jameis is like, yes, he's
Oh,
the number 2, but aesthetically, he
sure.
was the number 3 because they were trying to. Because it sounded like the owner did not want to bench Watson at all. I'm sure the head coach did, but the owner didn't for some reason, whatever that may be. So yeah, Winston's the starter, I think, no matter what now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's why they traded Flacco away too, I believe, because they didn't want
Yep.
the fans to start fucking. If the season started like it did, yeah, fans would have been clamoring like, dude, just fucking put Flacco back in,
Oh, it'd have been after
and
week
that's why
1.
they got rid of him. Yeah,
Yep. No, it makes total sense. Yeah, they didn't even offer
yeah,
him a contract, so I didn't think about it that way, but that's 100% right. The reason they even offer him a contract is because wasn't it they didn't want a good player to back up Watson? They just didn't want that PR. So,
yeah. It's
yeah,
understandable if
I
you're
get it.
stuck with them. You know you're starting them. Then yeah, why have the option back there to get fans riled up at you?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so that's the end of the injuries. Then we got the final one in there. The end of an era. Well, actually, it's probably not because I think they have to pay him for 2 more years. Is that right?
Even more than that.
Yeah, they
It was like a 5-year, 6-year contract. It was a big ass contract. Either way, yeah, they're screwed unless they find a way out of it. There was rumors earlier in the year that they were trying to find a way to get out of it, like almost even plant something on him. Like, I don't think they don't want him on the team anymore either. So,
sprinkle some crack on him.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Enough Deshaun Watson talk. That'll be the end of Deshaun Watson talk for the season, hopefully. Unless he makes a miraculous comeback from a torn ACL somehow.
Anything, it's probably going to be in the news cycles because he did something else stupid. I imagine.
Fucks it up worse. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we'll get into the matchup recaps. First matchup we got Mike versus me. I won this one 99.26 to 71.84. Quite the low scoring matchup. But a win's a win. I needed one. I was on a bit of a bad streak for a while there. So it feels good to get a win. Our quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson on my side, Jaden Daniels on Mike's side, combined for 14 points total across that line. At least Daniels had the excuse of being hurt. I don't know why I started Anthony Richardson. I needed an upside guy. I took the shot. I shit on him
I,
all year, and then I put him in my lineup like a fucking idiot.
we were talking about it. I still like the decision. I thought it was a good decision. The process is right, but yeah, sometimes the result doesn't work out and
Yeah.
didn't hurt you
I mean,
enough.
I think Miami actually has the best defense against fantasy quarterbacks in fantasy so far this season, which is surprising, but I think it's partially because teams whoop their asses usually. And that wasn't the
Yeah.
case this time. The Colts barely won. But usually teams are whooping their ass so bad, there's like, well, we're not throwing in this most of the second half, fourth
Sure.
quarter, it's clock run. Yeah, but whatever. We'll we'll see how it goes with him. Maybe I might just put him back on the waivers, let him be someone else's, landmine to pick up and start someday. And they're desperate. Next line I had Justin Jefferson on Mike's team. He does his usual thing. This guy's the best. Can't really complain about him. It's kind of the one bright spot on Mike's lineup this week because everything else wasn't great. Malik Neighbors had a bad game, pretty much his first bad game of the year. I mean, he missed a few, came back. Giants just got shut down. We talked about that earlier. Not much else to say on it. Sam Laporta, also on Mike's side, did a bunch of nothing. He's kind of looking like one of the big busts this year. I mean, he was the number one drafted tight end in our league, I believe. I think in most leagues he's kind of consensus number one. He had so many yards, so many touchdowns last year, and this year he's got a touchdown and barely any catches and
Yeah,
not many targets.
it's weird. I'm curious to see what happens if Jameis does get suspended to see if his role
Yeah,
increases or if Jameson took some of that. But like they weren't playing the same area of the field. If anything, Laporta and St. Brown or what overlap, and they were together last year, and they both eat or ate the same year, so same
yeah.
games. So I don't know what's going on there. I think last game he looked a little injured. Something happened with his foot, so maybe that took him out from getting a bigger workload. I also think they're just having him block more. I think he's a really blocker, so like they're just relying on his blocking maybe against certain teams. I mean, you get the Vikings who are really known for blitzing, so you can kind of go either way. You can have your tight end block, or you can try to have them go out and catch short passes. Like I was saying before, the way the Lions beat the Vikings is instead of taking the dink and dunks on second down, like a lot of teams are doing, they decided just to go right over the top, which is also a good area for Sam Laporta to eat. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me. So maybe it's just an injury. Um, Clearly, there's enough offense to go around, so he should get. There's no excuse for him not to be able to be, impactful on the team. So maybe it's just a couple bad weeks, but yeah, I would say if I would have drafted Laporta right now, I would be pretty disappointed. I mean, he had maybe one or two good games all year.
I think the game he had a touchdown was his only good game, and it wasn't even a great game because I think he only
That
had
was the
like
only catch, I think, right? I think it was just
yeah,
that catch, or it was like 2 catches.
yeah. I mean, that's sometimes how tight ends go, but that's not how the first tight end drafted. That's not how you expect them to go.
Well, people thought he was gonna be the next Travis Kelce,
Yeah.
and that has not been the case.
Well, he's the current Travis Kelce because they're probably about on par, but
Correct. Yeah,
Kelce went a little
that's
later.
true.
But I mean, the biggest problem is the Lions are what they're doing is working and they're winning and they're looking good, so they don't need to change anything. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes you fear for what's going to happen with them going forward.
Or the well is just so deep that they're using all these other things so successfully they don't have to even show the Laporta stuff, and maybe
It
that's
could
going to
be.
be reserved for later in the year. Like it's like, hey, we already are doing this with St. Brown. Everyone already knows that we're going to do the St. Brown. Why don't we hold the Laporta stuff back? Let's beat everyone deep, or maybe it is like, hey, let's make everyone worried about Jameson and going over the top, and then you could bring Laporta underneath him. It's the same reason why everyone wanted Williams for when we had St. Brown. Is like, okay, Williams takes it over top, pulls a safety, and then you put St. Brown right underneath him running like a mid route, and he is one on one against someone who can't cover him. And you can do the same thing with Sam Laporta, where in situation Sam Laporta, it's just you have a corner on a 6'4", 260-pound tight end. The corner is going to get boxed out. So um, maybe that's part of it, or maybe now that Williams is out, you'll see more. So there could be a number of reasons. It's hard to tell when you watch the games exactly what's keeping him back, other than this last week, where like I said, I think he looked a little injured. But yeah, he's definitely been a big letdown.
Yeah, you can't be happy with the draft capital spent on him. Granted, most tight ends you're not happy with him this year, so yeah, that just is what it is. If every team's suffering, then your suffering's not as bad. Other notes on Mike's side, we had reminded Stevenson. This guy he looks super good when I watch him, but his team is just so pathetic that he's going to be useless most weeks. Like he's talented, but you're that bad and you can't score, get in the red zone. You're always behind. Like a running back can only do so much, so that's kind of a bummer for him.
Kind of a shame he got drafted near the end of Brady or after Brady, because
Yeah.
they never had a running back like him, and they always wanted a running back like him, and they get it after Brady leaves, and now he's in this situation where the team has been so bad his whole career that he's never been able to really prove how good he is and put himself
Hmm.
in the top echelon of running backs where I think he could reside. He's big, strong, and physical, but he's also got enough speed to beat guys over the top and get, big chunk gains, which normally those bigger plotter type guys, they don't have that extra gear and they don't have a little the shiftiness that he has. So he's got a little bit of everything while being a power back. So he's fun to watch. He's a good player.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, just sucks he's on that team. On my side, we had Brees Hall. He once again failed to establish the running game, but luckily he had 99 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. I think he only had like 35 yards on the ground. Once again, Braylon Allen completely uninvolved, completely uninvolved. I mean, you like to see that. He likes the points, but I really wish the Jets could actually get a run game going so you get even more points. He's still been producing the last couple of weeks, but the yards on the ground just aren't there. I'll skip over that one. Also, Tank Bigsby, who I started. He had a fantastic game. He looked great, but ETN's coming back probably this week, and that might be the end of it for Tank Bigsby. You said he might get traded. He gets traded. That's fantastic. That would give me another running back. Maybe give me
I
a
feel like Bigsby proved he deserves the lion's share of the backfield. He's looked better all year. The team plays better with him. ETN is a trade chip, so maybe you just try to get rid of him. Maybe this next week they do showcase ETN a little bit. Might hurt Tank for like a week or two because they're like, hey, look at this guy we want to trade. And, just kind of give him some plays to increase his value. But even if they don't trade him, I think Bigsby will take over as the lead dog. And I think he deserves it. He's just the better player.
So that wraps up that one. Next match we had Tiff versus Vicky. Vicky wins 128.6 to 124.52. Very close matchup and pretty high scoring. I didn't have a lot of notes on this one. There's a lot of middling scores all across, but Jameer Gibbs, he had a fantastic game for Tiff. Monty kind of got banged up in this one. He left the game for a little while, came back in. I can't remember if he left again or if he played the rest of the game, but obviously he wasn't on the injury report. He'll still be playing, but he was hurting in this game. So Jameer Gibbs got the bulk of the work and it showed. It's a good offense. If one of the guys gets the majority of the work, they're going to do this most of the time.
Well, a lot of it came off that one touchdown where he just made the defender look silly, and he showed
some Barry
all the
Sanders
ability
shit
that you want from him. That's why he's generally ranked ahead of Gibbs or Monty, because he can literally do what he did in this game, where it was like the easiest 60-yard run I've seen, where he just jukes a guy and he's gone. No one can catch him. He's probably for his size, he has more acceleration than like anybody in the league at his size. Like he just accelerates. I mean, like Tyreek Hill, they both just have that. Their top end speed's really great, but then they also just have an exceptional acceleration. That's what makes him such a good player.
Yeah, that guy he juked too. Yeah, he just juked him right out of his socks. He had
And it
so
looked
much
like
room to go
nothing
around
but
him.
kids. Like it's such an effortless juke. Like when you see guys do those jukes so effortlessly, when you look at it on TV, it's like, yeah, that's really cool. But when you're just staring at that guy right in front of you and he's running at you, you can probably get your hands on him. But he jukes so fast, another professional athlete literally was left in the dust. Like it's hard to like really know how impressive it is until you see it in person. But that guy, his body does things other people's bodies can't do.
Yeah. Other notes for Tiff. Denver D was a great start. They've been a great start all year. So, obviously we're going to start them, but they did fantastic this week. Unfortunately, Denver wide receiver and Cortland Sutton, not so much. He had 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 points of fantasy, 0 in the lineup. I hate to see it. Vicky's team, I didn't really have any notes. She was just like solid all across the board. Amon Ra, his best game of the season, which means per points were just all like in the teens, couple 20s, low 20s.
That's kind of how our team is.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of
No
like
explosion
pretty solid
points,
players, but no one that's like exceptional. She's just kind of like a basket of just good players. So she just kind of puts up 10, 15 points at each slot. And as long as they all play to like their average score, she does pretty well. I know she had Samuel who got 0 points because of the whole
the flu
pneumonia thing.
or the pneumonia.
That was the only like bad score on our whole team this week. So yeah, when that happens, you typically win.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not taking a whole bunch of low points, if everyone's getting 10 to 15, it's usually enough to win. Maybe a couple going over that, but yeah. Next matchup we had Lee versus Jackie. Lee wins 116 to 90.68. The Lee train is now rolling. Can anyone stop it? It's gone 3 in a row after starting with 4-0. Good job, Lee. It's led by Joe Mixon again. This guy's just been absolutely stellar since he came back. Aaron Jones also had a great week on his comeback after the injury. 2 great running backs. That helps your team a ton, especially with how many are getting hurt and underperforming this year. Young Ho Koo, the most voted for kicker in the Faab bet, so obviously he wasn't going to win. He scores a massive 1 point this week for Lee. That's kickers. Doesn't matter if you're the best. Sometimes you just get
As
1
soon
point.
as I saw, I was the second person to vote because Lee voted, and I'm like, I'm gonna say Young Ho Koo too. And then I saw everyone else like saying, I'm like, yep, I just fucked myself. Everyone just sabotaged that kick or his week as the number 1 kicker.
Yeah, it's never the majority. It's never going to happen. Kirk Cousins, Jackie's starting quarterback. He's looking like fool's gold. He had another bum week. He really just had that one awesome week. I'm calling Kirk Cousins the next car. He got picked up. She spent on him. She's been starting him, getting nothing out of him. I mean, her other option was CJ Stroud against the Packers, so I get why she started him. The Packers defense has been good. Plus, he's playing against the Packers. If you have the option in fantasy and it's a toss-up, I usually choose to start the guy not playing against my home team, so I don't have to root
Yeah.
for him.
Well, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy fantasy. So if you don't
Mhm.
enjoy watching the opposing player go off against your team, then yeah, don't start him. And yeah, I mean, he's basically done the same thing as Carr, right? Like Carr had the big game, got picked up, put together 2 pretty mediocre weeks. So now Cousin, all he has to do is just finish it off with like a 3-week injury, and then we've completed the Carr.
Yeah. Then we had Kenneth Walker on Jackie's team. He's looking awesome this season. He's looking like a top 5 guy. I think he missed 1 week, but damn, he's looked great. Seattle's offense looks pretty great in general.
I think we mentioned it earlier, like they're like a poor man's Lions offense. They have kind of like the same strengths and weaknesses. Their offensive line isn't as good. I think the top end talent across the board isn't as good as the Lions, but like Kenneth Walker is probably just as good as Gibbs. They just don't really have a guy as good as Monty. You know,
Yeah.
they have a pretty solid tight end. They just don't have one as good as Laporta. Um, their receivers are probably close to ours. Maybe they're a little bit better, but yeah, they kind of a similar situation. Kenneth Walker, though, he's like the guy that makes that whole offense work. Though
Yep.
he is, I think he's every bit as good as Brees Hall, and he's like a similar player. I'm surprised more people don't talk about him. Like I bet you right now, if you were to go looking at other fantasy leagues, you could not get Brees Hall for what you can get Kenneth Walker for, and I'm pretty sure those should be swapped or at least in the same category. They're both exceptional players. They win the same way.
Yeah. Well, Seattle's offense is better than the Jets' offense, so that plays
There
a
you
big
go.
role into it.
And if that's a good tiebreaker, then
Yeah.
that would probably put me putting Walker over. But yeah, they're both great players. Can't go wrong with either.
Yeah, agreed. Last note for this one, I had Tank Dell, Elisa Kusek, and Jackie's lineup. It's weird, especially with Nico Collins out, that he gets 0. But I guess Packers D is just that good. Can't score. Can't get any points against them. Tyrone Tracy also came back to earth this game after his 2 big monstrous 2-week debut. And Brock Bowers on Jackie's team. He's looking like he's going to be the number 1 scoring tight end this year. Props to Jackie for taking that gamble and trading for him early on in the year, because dude gets like 10 targets every game. He's only got 1 touchdown so far. And if he can like up that just to get like 1 every 3 games, the amount of targets and receptions and yards he's getting will put him at tight end 1, because this competition's not that stiff anyways.
That's the problem, though. I don't know if Vegas can get him touchdowns. He's going to struggle there.
True.
But right now, without Adams, he is the lead option there. So I don't really expect this to change much. I mean, this is kind of a similar situation to what Laporta was last year for the Lions. Just seems like a key cog in the offense. Laporta got a little more touchdowns because he was just on a better team, but Bowers has been everything he was advertised coming out of the draft, and then some, I think. So yeah, that trade. She's looking really smart after making that trade week 1, and she took the upside play, and the upside hit probably better than anyone expected.
Yeah. I actually read that. So last year, Puka broke the rookie reception record.
Yep,
Brock Bowers is on pace to break that record as a
as a
tight
tight
end.
end. Yeah,
Yeah. That's insane.
that's how good he is. He's really, really
Yeah.
good. Well, he was billed as like a lot of people thought he was going to be a top 5 pick like early on in the draft process, and then like the whole position value kind of kicked in, and it was like, okay, maybe he shouldn't go this early, maybe he shouldn't go here, maybe he'll go like in the teens, and then that's kind of where he started to like settle. But I think he was every bit like one of the top 5 players in this draft. He only went where he did because of the position he plays. So he was
Yeah.
incredible in college, and you're seeing him do the same thing in the NFL. There's really no difference.
Sucks to see him on that team, because that team's not going to be good for the next couple of years at least. So it sucks seeing him stuck there.
That's true, but I mean, we would have probably said the same thing about the Commanders going into the season, right?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess shit can. Yeah, it's the NFL. Shit can change very quickly and
Jaden
unexpectedly.
Daniels on that team next year with Brock Bowers, and then you have probably some crazy Gronk level tight end for that year.
Yeah, dude, Poor actually offered me Brock Bowers for Freemuth at the start of the season. But Jackie had messaged me and said, Poor boy offered me Brock Bowers for whoever the fuck she had got it. I was like, oh, that's funny. You offered me for my tight end as well.
I would have done that if I was you.
And I was like, are you gonna take it? She's like, I don't know. And I was like, well, let me know, because if you don't take it, I might take it. And then it was like 2 hours later she took it. And I was like, I didn't really care at the time. I was like, whatever. Now I'm really kicking myself. I'm really kicking myself for not just hit the accept button.
I think he offered me a trade for him too, but I don't know if it was straight up for my tight end, Kyle Pitts. It might have
You had
been. But
Pitts. Yeah.
I remember seeing it later. Actually, I can look at it.
Preseason, I went to trade Pitts, I don't think, for him.
No, when we saw the trade that Jackie took, I'm like, that makes sense because he was like a step below Pitts, I think, and it made sense for her. But I'm pretty sure if I can go find it.
Yeah, I mean, poor boy said he had too many Raiders at the time, and he just wanted to get rid of one of them. So he was trying to trade Brock Bowers to a bunch of people, just basically swap his tight end for someone else's tight end.
I mean,
It's
drafting
kind
too
of
many Raiders isn't
understandable.
the first problem. I don't know if Bowers
Well,
should have been part of that. Should have the other Raiders players.
yeah,
Look for it. But yeah, I know he offered me
yeah.
something for him too. So yeah, he was definitely trying to trade Bowers early.
You wanted to unload him. Poor decision for the poor boy. Next matchup, we had Jim versus Richard. So you won this one. You remain undefeated. Listeners, can someone please beat this guy? I'm tired of talking to an undefeated guy every week while I'm sitting at a losing record.
Hey, if we would
Well,
have done this
I'm
last
an
year,
even record now.
you were like killing everybody, and I was having a hard time. It would have been the reverse. So the only
Yeah.
reason you get to do this now is because we didn't do this podcast last year. So I
I
get to
didn't get
bask
to.
in this a little bit. I don't think I've ever been undefeated this long in a fantasy season, and I've been doing this a long time. If I did, it was a long time ago. I think I always remember being like 9-1. Losing early. I just never seem to have good starts, but been a pretty good start. The team's pretty solid, but I still feel like I'm in a couple nail biter games that could have gone either way, and I just kind of squeaked them out. Like even this one, I
It's
felt
almost
like
close.
Richard could have came back. I mean, he had
With Derrick Henry on Monday night, you always got to worry.
well, he had Henry
Even if
and
you're up by
Godwin.
30.
Godwin was like the number 2 receiver, and he had the number 1
Oh,
running
yeah.
back. So I'm like, both of these guys have proven they can score 30 points pretty much every week. And all he needed was like 60 points between those two and a kicker. So I was not that confident going into this. And I fell asleep, woke up, and realized I won. I was pretty happy. But yeah. And the worst part is that I probably would have lost to the guy I traded to him, who I loved in the beginning of the year, but I traded just because I wanted to get some trades going, and it would have been really regretting it after that game.
Yeah, so this matchup, Saquon, it was his revenge game against the Giants. He was fantastic. Like I said, it was the second highest rushing he's ever had in his career. Drake London, again on your team. He has 5 touchdowns in 7 games so far this season. He's been looking great. I was kind of worried about him at the start of the season, but I mean, even with the offense not being great every week, he always seems to put up some numbers. So you got to like him. Richard's team once again led by Derrick Henry, but I will say he's got George Pickens, and that's looking like quite the uptick now that Russell Wilson's the quarterback. That might go a long ways for Richard and make his team a little bit better.
Well, the problem is he just lost Chris Godwin, so now it's like
He needs it now.
he just lost Godwin, so Pickens is maybe replacing 90% of what Godwin is at his peak. Maybe he can replace all of Godwin, but to say Pickens is a top 3 receiver, it'd be pretty hard to say. But yeah, Pickens looked good. I actually offered him a trade for Pickens the other day, and he denied it. So I was a little disappointed. I was going to offer it to him before the game, but I was like, I don't know if he would accept it because we're playing each other. So I didn't offer it. I wish I probably would have, because I might have got him then for a lot less than I could get him for today. He looked really good. He's a really good player. He's a complete dumbass. He's got so many things. If you go listen to what he's said so far this year, he is. I'm actually surprised the Steelers are still putting up with his bullshit, but he's really good, and he proved that. And now he's got a quarterback that can deliver some accurate, maybe not accurate passes, but accurate enough for George Pickens to catch. And that's all he needs. He generally just needs to have a ball in his vicinity, and he's probably going to beat the DB for it.
Yeah, Tomlin, and he's got a good track record of keeping those fucking weird dudes in check for the most part, at least on the field and when they're in the
Why they draft these type of players.
yeah.
Like,
I don't know how he does it.
He's just really good at managing people. I mean, he's just
Certainly.
he's an incredible coach. And yeah, I think they know he's so good at that, so they can take risks on characters because they trust him. But it just seems like every year they have another receiver like this that's a complete idiot. Complete knucklehead. You got Antonio Brown, you got Pickens, you had that other guy who was like 6'5" that ran a 4.3 who ended up out of the league for a while, and then the Raiders traded for him. I can't think of his name right now.
Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did a bunch of dumb stuff for a while. they just move on to the next guy. Like every couple of years, there's a receiver in the draft that extremely talented, maybe the best receiver in that draft, but he's going to go as like the 10th receiver because he's a knucklehead. The Steelers always seem to draft that guy. He ends up being really good, and then in a couple of years they trade him because he's too much of a knucklehead. It's just like
Yeah,
rinse and
but
repeat. But
they seem to keep it under wraps when he's there, or like it's not as big of a thing when he's there. But when he goes to the next team, all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 all this stupid shit's happening. The media's covering it. It's like I don't know how Talon does such a good job of being like, I don't know if he has a guy to follow him around all the time. Be like, no, you're not fucking doing that,
they
or
just get enough
make
out
sure
of
there's no
him.
fucking cameras around before you do this or some shit like that. But he does a good job with it.
I think he gets tired of it too eventually, though, and then he just kicks him out and goes to the next guy.
Yeah,
So I mean, they only take it for so long themselves.
oh, good on him. I mean, I love Tomlin. He's an awesome coach. Been doing it for so long. And the Steelers, no matter how grim things look, they always just have a winning record and go to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's
Last
a
year they
big
did it with the
testament to Tomlin.
shittiest quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, dude's awesome. That's it for that one. The next match we had Scooter versus Carson. Carson wins this one 133.04 to 96.78. So a pretty crushing win, almost 40 points. Lamar Jackson, baby. We talked about him already. He threw for 281 yards and 5 touchdowns while running for another 50 yards. We mentioned it, but this dude's making a pretty strong case to win another MVP this year. We'll see if it happens or not. But I mean, for fantasy, he's looking like a fantasy MVP. I don't think there's any better quarterbacks than him right now. Maybe Baker.
No, Lamar is definitely the number one on
Yeah.
point total right now, and I don't know if it's even particularly close. Yeah, he's incredible. He's putting it together throwing when he's on throwing, which he's done this before. He's gone through stretches where he's just dicing teams up, and it's typically earlier in the year. So I'm curious to see how this transitions to later in the year because I think we've seen these type of starts from him in previous years. But again, when he's on working in the passing game like he has been, and he's got the element that he has in the running, he's basically unstoppable. He's
Yeah.
Michael Vick, but better. And we saw Michael Vick's best season. He was basically MVP of the whole NFL. We saw Lamar Jackson do that twice now. Um, yeah, I would not be surprised if he wins his third. I would not be surprised if they win it all this year because of him.
Yeah. I mean, this game with Derrick Henry, there commands so much attention. I think that does open the passing up a lot. And honestly, Derrick Henry didn't do a lot in the first half of this game either. It was more the Lamar and his arm on display.
Yeah.
But then when it came to the second half, they're on, let's just seal this one up. It's just Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry does his things where it's just like few yards, run the clock, few yards, run the clock. Oh, there he goes for 30, 40 yards and
That's
gets
his
a
whole game. That's
touchdown
how
and
he's always been. And
fantastic
he
game.
fits perfect because he's always in games that they're generally winning. So he gets to play the way he likes to play, where you get a little bit of a lead. Henry nurses that lead better than everyone because no one wants to tackle him. And he generally puts on a couple extra points for you because he normally burns you for like a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts. Next highlight on Carson's team, we had Kyron Williams. He has 9 touchdowns this season. There's only 10 quarterbacks who have scored more touchdowns than that. The dude's nose for the end zone is just insane. He was doing the same shit last year. I just think people questioned if he could really keep up that insane production, but he has. The
He's
dude's
only like 200
just
pounds,
fucking
right?
crazy.
He's not
He's not.
that big.
He's not that big. You wouldn't think he'd be every time we're in the red zone, he's getting a touchdown, but he does.
He's like a scat back. He's just got a little more weight to him. 5'9",
Yeah, I'm
203 pounds.
curious.
He's 2
203. Yeah,
pounds lighter than Barry Sanders, the same height.
yeah.
So he's basically Barry Sanders, just not as good.
Well, we'll see in a couple of years because the dude's setting up a case for it. I think he
He's
has
had a good
like
career so far.
it's only rushing touchdowns, but they showed a stat during the game. He has like I can't remember. It's like 12 games in a row with one with a specifically rushing touchdown. And there's only 2 people above that. And one is LaDainian Tomlinson, but he has like 24 or something stupid.
Yeah, Tomlinson. I mean, you never got to play in the Tomlinson era of fantasy football.
No.
The reason I think I've said this before on the podcast, but literally the reason why PPR exists today is because of LaDainian Tomlinson. He was that much better than the rest of the field that they had to find a way. If you got LaDainian Tomlinson in the first pick, you were probably winning the league. So they had to make PPR to help offset how good Tomlinson was. That's what ESPN did.
Yep.
So yeah, Tomlinson. If you ever want to look up some crazy things, go look at some of his fantasy seasons. They're the best in NFL
Maybe
history.
I'll have to. See, I didn't start playing until like around a decade ago, so he was already well out of the league by then.
Yeah, that's when I first started playing. I never had him ever. I played probably 3 or 4 years where he was dominant, and I never got him, and it was just a bloodbath every time because you
Yeah.
could not beat the team that had him.
That's probably why it all goes back to like everyone wants the number one pick. That's because of those years.
Oh, that's exactly. I think most people reminisce of that. I
Yeah.
mean, think of Christian McCaffrey's like top seasons. That still wasn't as dominant as LaDainian Tomlinson was in
Yeah.
those seasons. That just
No
shows
super
you.
dominant.
And Chris McCaffrey's been like the best fantasy player of like the last 10 years, I would say. But he was not. He didn't even hold anything to LaDainian.
Yeah. Next note I have on this one: Deshaun Watson goes out, and Njoku is good again. Would you look at that? What a difference it makes. So now
Did
Carson's
he
got a good
score a
tight end
touchdown
again.
like right after they said? It was like the next player, like at least that drive, he went
I
down the
don't
field and
even know.
scored. Yeah, there was some
But
people in the fantasy community that were laughing about it too because it was like instantaneous. Watson goes down, Njoku's a relevant tight end again. So a lot of people were rejoicing over that.
if you're an Njoku owner, you're happy. So I'm sure Carson's is happy. Next up, we had Dicker the kicker. He drops. Carson spent $20 on him. He scored 21 points for him. Almost $5 per point for the week. Good spend. On Scooter's side, there weren't too many highlights other than Tyreek still sucks until Tua gets back. But I think Tua might be back next week from the sounds of it.
Yep. It sounds like he's coming back. They just reactivated him. So yeah, they pretty much
Yeah.
saying it sounded like they were playing gamesmanship by not trying to say he was going to come back week 8, but it was
Yeah.
always set in stone that week 8 was going to be the time he was going to return. So, yeah, Tyreek Hill will be back to probably being a top 5 tight end or receiver again. So, Scoot should be happy about that.
Yeah. You gotta love that. And that's a difference maker at the spot if he's anything like last year, which one would assume he would be. He
And
did
with
say,
Tua, he's been arguably the best fantasy player we've had the last 2 years. So, he's really good.
yeah, I mean, he was just behind McCaffrey last year for fantasy points. It wasn't a huge gap.
And there was times in the season where he was number 1 when he was getting
Oh yeah.
'cause he had like an injury or something, I think middle of the season or near the end of the season that kind of hurt his like fantasy output. But like when he was like in the first half of the season, probably about like right about now, week 8, week 9, I remember him being like the number 1 player in fantasy, and it was not even particularly close. He was having a
Yeah, he was on
incredible year.
pace for 2,000 yards until like
Yep.
week 8 or 9 when he had that little whatever happened to him and he slowed down for a little bit.
And then he
It
kind of got back near the end, but yeah,
yeah.
that kind of took him away for a couple weeks. It must have been like a hamstring injury. It was clear that it was affecting him for a while, and then he got back to normal. But it's crazy to see like him being used for like 1 reception for like 9 yards without Tua. Like he's been almost useless without him. So maybe the team's just done for the year and Tua won't change much. But I still think you're going to be pretty happy. You should expect
see
Tyreek to return to normal.
Tua said he is not going to wear the
Guardian
concussion
cap.
helmet. Yeah, the Guardian cap, that's what it's called.
From what I heard is that the ones that the quarterbacks wear are pretty much on the same like level of like resistance. Like
Okay.
from tests, so like, and I think they don't want because it covers up the holes the way the Guardian cap works.
Oh,
Like by NFL standard, they can't have the holes in it. I don't know why
okay.
that is, but there's some like standard with it that they can't do, and some players don't like that. So as a quarterback, I could kind of understand because they probably want the way the mic works and stuff. It might make things sound weird. I know they asked him; he said it's his choice, but
Yeah.
again, from what I heard, is the quarterback's designed helmet is about just as good to prevent concussions.
Okay. I did see, or I didn't see it. I want to see it because I heard it looks funny, but I heard Achan's wearing the Guardian cap, and he's already such a small dude. I heard it
Yeah,
looks pretty damn funny because when you
I
see
think
people wearing
I
them, it
did
is
see a
like, oh,
picture of it.
it's like I got the big helmet. It's like
Yeah,
on the big head. So,
like
and Achan's like,
Spaceballs.
he's so small. Dude's like 100, what is Achan? Like 175 pounds.
He's bigger than
He's
that.
such a tiny guy.
He's like 5'7" though. He's tiny.
Yeah, he's short and he's tiny. Like to have him with a big fucking helmet on, it's got to look funny. I meant to look
5'9", 183.
183. Okay, he's a little bit bigger than I thought he
That's
was, but
tiny for a
still
running back
small.
though. How many running
Yeah,
backs in the NFL are that light? I mean, what was Darren Sproles? He was like 5'6".
he was probably smaller.
I think Darren Sproles was around 190. He was actually kind of chunky.
Oh, was he? I think he
Yeah.
was that big. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why you almost want.
5'6", 190 was Darren Sproles.
Okay, That's almost why you want Achane to not be the. You're almost happy that Mostert's back.
I'm shocked that
Did
he's
not be in the.
gets as much usage as he has, like, at the size he was, like, he was always supposed to be more of, like, a gadget player. He was never supposed to
Yeah.
be, like, a main running back. The fact that he can do that from week to week is actually astonishing for his size, so he's definitely an exception to the rule.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Miami. Tua back. Mostert's back. Everyone's pretty much healthy there now. Maybe they'll. Their division's not looking that strong, so they could still do something.
Yeah,
They
the
got.
Bills are gonna be a tough one, but, I mean, yeah, the rest of the
Yeah.
division, they can probably get some wins against, and
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully it goes back to normal with Tua, but I would be concerned. They've looked really bad without Tua, like, not
It
even
looked
competitive.
terrible. I
So,
thought Mike
like,
McDaniels was a good enough coach to fabricate some wins during that stretch, and
that's my concern is that I don't think
yeah,
he is a good coach. I think teams
might
have
not
figured
be.
him out, and I think if things are not clicking, he has like he's basically I think a one trick pony. Like that offense, once you take out Tua or like a half decent quarterback, it just goes to shit, which makes me and I don't watch enough of it, so I don't have any like real breakdowns of what they do. You know, like I generally try to add something like that in most situations, but with this team, I really don't know enough about it. I haven't followed them enough all year, but the fact that they've lost the way they have, the fact that they have all that talent and they still can't seem to amount any production out of their quarterbacks. I mean, look at the Packers or Malik Willis. Malik Willis is probably on the same level, if not worse, than what these Dolphins quarterbacks were considered after Tua.
Yeah,
I
but you
mean,
make a simple game plan
yeah,
that he can that they can run,
and
and you
that's a
have the
good
fastest guy in
coach,
the NFL. Like, how do you not figure something out for him?
right? They didn't even manufacture touches for Tyreek and Waddle last week. Like they had 3 catches, I think, between them,
Yeah.
and like only like 4 targets. Like you should be giving 4 targets to those guys every quarter.
Hmm.
Manufacture some of them. So to me, that means he's not trying to manufacture targets for him. What I was reading, a lot of people think he might be over his head as a head coach. Maybe he's a good offensive coordinator. Maybe he's good at calling plays
Could
and
be.
stuff. But like he's just over his head. And then with the Tua injury and the team like not succeeding over that time, it's just too much for him, and he can't focus enough on the offensive side of things. And you're seeing everything kind of just break down. It's almost like a domino effect. So hope that's not the case. He seems like a really cool coach. I kind of wish he was successful because he's basically like a fantasy football nerd, is what he reminds me of. He's just some scrawny little dude that I still can't believe he's a head coach in the NFL. He just doesn't fit. But he's like an analytics guy. He kind of fits everything that the modern like football fan has kind of adapted to. And there's been this like old school mentality that you shouldn't use analytics, and there's new school mentality you should use analytics. He's like really far on the analytics side, and then you kind of have like the Dan Campbell guy who's kind of like in the middle, which is I think where you probably want to reside in the NFL. But yeah, it sucks. He's been so bad this year that I think he might be, if they lose a game or two with Tua right away when he comes back, he might be refired right in the middle of the season. Maybe he's the next coach that goes.
He's he might be on the hot seat with this stretch going on. 'Cause, yeah, it's not just the loss. It's like, man, they've looked just pathetic. Yeah, I mean that's you got to get a couple wins there. I mean, you weren't even playing good teams every week. Some of them weren't
I
great,
think they
and
had
you're
a lot
still
of
just
bad teams they
losing.
played against. I mean,
Yeah,
we talked about the one with the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots, we're talking about how bad they are. You
yeah.
should be able to beat that team without your starting quarterback
The
because they
Colts
literally
too.
don't have a quarterback that's worth starting either.
Yeah,
So that should be the rest of your team versus the rest of their team. The Dolphins have a better roster than the Patriots. I really do think it's coming down to their coaching. But again, I can't speak too much more than just what I think because I haven't watched enough. But something tells me the coaching's going on, or the bad
yeah,
coaching is going on there, and that's costing them.
yeah. We'll see how it shakes out. I guess we do have one more matchup to go over, so we'll hit that one up. We got Poor versus Ashley. Poor wins this one, 129.76 to 86.9. Uh, weak showing for Ashley. But Baker and Bijan, they did produce again this week for Ashley. Unfortunately, that's pretty much the end of her highlights. Mark Andrews did have a good game, but he was on her bench. He was probably on 80% of people's bench. I don't know who was still starting him at this point, but you like to see that. You like to see him being involved because he was a high draft capital person. She's held on to him. You'd probably like to start him if you have him on your roster.
Still had like hardly any routes ran. He had like 13 routes ran. So
He
you put all
he is
those stats up on like nothing, which is like that's what concerns you. Like he's not even getting the opportunities. Like he happened to
yeah.
make the most of these ones, but yeah, that's one of the most crazy things with this season. There's always something you see every season. I would have never guessed in a million years Mark Andrews would have been like the third tight end in usage for them and just having like such a
Yeah.
down year on such a dominant team. Like I would have thought, for him to be this poor, something would have had to happen to Lamar Jackson. It's just it's one of those things. It's just like Laporta we talked about earlier. I can't explain why he hasn't been better, other than like with him, he's a little more obvious because they just not giving him opportunities. But I still can't really explain. He looks like the same player out there to me, so I don't understand why they're not using him.
Yeah,
It's
he's much less involved. Like less routes run, is just on the field percentage is down. Just yeah, I mean it's good to see a good game. It's good to see 2 touchdowns. But yeah, like you said, he still wasn't super involved, so it's concerning, but you do like to see it and maybe use it. Toss him as a trade to somebody. There's still a lot of shitty tight ends out there. Maybe you can get something for him if you don't actually want to start putting him in your lineup again, which would be understandable. Next note I had was Rashad Bateman kind of took over the wide receiver run role for Baltimore this week. He had 20 points for poor. Interesting. Did Zay Flowers get hurt in that game? Do you know?
Yeah, he got hurt a little bit. I don't know what
Yeah.
all happened. I saw that he was like back, so I don't think it was like a serious injury, but enough to like make him miss some game, maybe
Yeah.
some quarter, like a quarter or two.
And he was getting a lot of the deep catches, and he got a touchdown. He looked good for Rashad Bateman, at least. You usually see that guy doing too much. They've always wanted him to be that, but he's like 3 years in, 4 years in, and he never does. So
He was like one of those guys that you expect to be good right away because he was kind of like a finished prospect. He kind of realized he didn't have like crazy upside. He pretty much is an NFL player from the day he was drafted. So he did get injured though his first season, so that probably also hurt his
true.
ability to get adjusted to the NFL. And some players, even in that situation, if they are that kind of prospect, sometimes players just take a little bit longer to adjust to the NFL. He's actually had a pretty solid season up to this point as the number 2 there, and if Lamar keeps doing what he's been doing, he's probably going to be very valuable.
We'll see what happens with him. Another note on poor side of the ball, Kamara's performance is pretty concerning without Carr at the helm. That team's looking pretty bad. And you're looking bad and you're running back. Things are usually bad for you. So as a Kamara owner, poor, you're probably really hoping for Carr to get back sooner rather than later. And then one last note on for poor is Kareem Hunt. Continues to look like one of the great pickups this year for poor. I think you got him for $0 or $1, and that's just fantastic. You got currently probably a top 10 running back, and he didn't even play the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, he's
Nice pickup.
been a lot better than anyone expected. So, and then they reactivated
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
He didn't really get any work. So yeah, Kareem Hunt, he's looking like a solid player, and if you can get any production out of Mahomes, that starts threatening teams. Maybe Mahomes' pedigree makes people scared no matter what. But if like Mahomes can start putting some good games together, Hunt might just become even better.
Yeah. Let's see what happens with it. That's all the matchups. That's most of the show. We just have to talk about our bet for next week. We decided on will Jordan Love throw an interception next week?
Yes.
Stats say that he will. I say that he won't. Jim says that he will.
Kyle's kind of giving me a layup one since I took some bad ends of bets earlier. So this is his opportunity to do that since we watch Love throw a lot. The interceptions this year, see what happens. Who are you playing? Jaguars? So it's not the greatest defense in the world, but they can get a good pass rush going. They got 2 good pass rushers, so that's typically what you need to throw a pick. So we'll see.
Sometimes Jordan Loves just see Dobbs down the field and he says, fuck it. I'm chucking it.
That's probably going to be a pick more often. He's been kind of lucky the last couple of weeks on some of those.
Next week we can do if Jared Goff keeps up his streak of no interceptions, will Goff finally throw an interception?
Well, interception. Will Goff
he's
throw an incompletion? That's what we should be talking about with the way
you
he's
want to
been
give
playing.
You want to give me that kind of gimme?
Incompletions, the 18 touchdowns in 3 weeks. Come on, dude's incredible. You gotta stop hating.
We can go over under. We can go over under on his incompletions the next week.
We probably should. That might be the best way to do it. He's been awesome. I mean, honestly, this season's already looking better than anything Stafford's ever put together. He's been incredible this year. I still can't believe how we got him as basically a throw-in in the Stafford trade. That's the reason why our team is so good right now. We got
Yeah.
so lucky with Goff
He's
because we
looking
already
great.
had all the draft capital because we were going to be bad for a couple years. But we got the Goff trade is we got Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, one of our safeties. I can't think of his name, but he was actually really good at the end of the year. Was one of our safeties. He's actually hurt right now, so I can't think of his name right now. But and there was like one or two other players on that list. Oh, I think Aleem McNeil might have been part of that too. Who's one of we just gave him like 20 million a year. So we basically got 4 or 5 starters for trading Stafford. So that's
Yeah.
why our team is really good. But obviously the key piece in that is Goff. He's been incredible.
But the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it. So I mean, they
No, I
can't
mean
really
it
be
was a good
upset.
trade for both teams. I
And
don't
they'd
think
be the Rams are still looking okay despite their, you know, they've been beat to shit this year, and they're still manufacturing some wins when they can. You know, not
they
against
beat
great
the
teams,
Lions.
but when they
That's when they
yeah.
lost Puka. So I mean, obviously, Cup was going then, which is a big deal. But they gave us everything they could that game. I was really shocked how well they played, and their defense played better than I expected against our offense. And then their defense hasn't really been that good this year, but they really did take out our offense. And I think we were the number one scoring offense in the league this week. And that might have changed now with the um, 41 points that the Ravens put up. But
Yeah.
the Lions have been one of the best offenses in the league the last couple of years, and they gave us a run for our money. They're playing really well, and I don't think they have anyone really that good on their defense. So,
Well, exiting the Lions game, I think they lost 5 of their starters on
they're
defense
losing
by
guys
the end
left
of
and right.
that
They lost
game.
Puka.
They'd
They
already
lost,
lost.
I think, an
I'm just
offensive
talking
lineman.
defense.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think they were like 2 or 3 down going into the Lions game, and then they lost 2 more during that game.
they had
And
multiple
they're
offensive
slowly
linemen
getting
out
them
too.
back.
They had like
Yeah.
2 backup offensive. I've never seen a team so injured for week 1 of a season. It was
Yeah.
like it looked like week 10, week 11 injury report. It was crazy. I didn't think there was any chance the game was going to be close. That's why I was so shocked that they played so well. But I think a lot of it was just Stafford. He was just playing out of his mind because it was Detroit. I think
Yeah.
even though players don't want to admit it, they get some extra,
Mhm.
mojo when they're playing against, their former team, or they're in a situation that, they were cherished and now they're getting booed. I know they got pissed off last year because when they came out to Ford Field, they booed their kids.
They
His
booed his
wife went
wife,
on her
yeah.
podcast and was bitching
Yeah.
about it, like, Detroit, they fucking suck. They booed our kids. How could you boo a kid? And everyone's like, I'll fucking boo those kids again. So I think they were
Yeah.
kind of upset. They weren't even gonna go to the game at first, or his wife wasn't gonna go to the game because of that. They're trying to like protest going to the Lions game because they booed him last year. I was like, geez, get off. It's a freaking sporting event. You
Yeah.
gotta
It's just a
expect that.
boo. It
They
ain't
know
that
who
big
you
of a
are.
deal.
No one liked her anyways.
I think the Vikings play them this week. If the Vikings beat them, that's a clean sweep by the NFC North. So I'm kind of rooting for that, but I also kind of want the Vikings to lose.
Right. No, we want the Vikings to lose. Fuck those
Yeah.
guys.
Well, Cup might be back, so they have a little bit of a shot.
I mean,
There.
I watched Stafford for over 11 years as a Lion. He will legitimately make every game a potential win. He's that
Oh
good.
yeah.
So, like, he's never out of a game. He's had so many bad rosters with the Lions. He knows how to play in that situation better than probably anyone in the league. So, like, he's like, this is natural
True.
for me. So, plus he knows the Vikings. Well, I guess they're such a new team. They're a different team than he ever probably played against, but he's got a chance to beat him. Hopefully they can. We want the Vikings to come down a couple notches. I need to get my bet to win because I think you have multiple bets that actually look, or not bets, but predictions, because you might have the Jennings prediction going your way now too because of the
I
2
mean,
injuries.
that kind of just fell perfectly into my lap. I don't even know how I could
Love
lose that one now.
Jennings. You're looking like a genius right now. I don't
Yeah.
know if any of my were even good because the Vikings clearly look like they're not going to probably miss the playoffs.
Yeah. You got
Goff MVP has
that's
some
possible.
legs, but
He's just such
that's
a
so
pocket
hard.
passer. I don't know if you can win MVP that way anymore. Like you have to do the flashy shit.
If he keeps doing the crazy like 22 for 25, 290
True.
yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, he's gonna put up some stats that people have never seen before, and then that will get the talking going. Like if he's putting up 80% per completion percentage most games that he's been, like, yeah, that's gonna be unheard of.
I think he's
So
the first. Like I don't know what the I don't know exactly what quarterback rating, how they'd actually do it, but
Mhm.
it's a thing. People use it. But I think he's the first person to do 2 weeks in a row since like 2000, early 2000s, and he's the first person ever to do it 3 weeks in a row. Have over a 140 in that stat. I
It's
was like, that's
150 for, I think, the
fucking
2
crazy.
weeks 2 weeks back to back. I think he's the first one to do
Yeah, but he's
150,
over 140 for 3 weeks in a
and he's
row.
over 140, but he's tied 4 players with that.
Oh, okay.
Rodgers. It was like a bunch of superstars, though. It was like Rodgers, Tom Brady, people like that. He's like the
Yeah.
only quarterback to do that in NFL history. So yeah. Yeah, the original one was 2 150 back-to-back games in it, but that's still crazy. 3 140 back-to-back back games, and then 2 of those games are 150s. Like, I mean, he obviously the Lions offense, the whole system around them, they have the best offense in the league. Like, if you take the quarterback out, I don't think anyone's offense stacks up to as good as the Lions in talent. So you put him in there, he's in a really, really good position. But he's really good in his own right. So it's a good situation for everyone. He also makes the team around him better. The team makes him better.
Yep.
Um, I honestly think we're going to have a special offense this year, like record book special. The only other team in the league that probably can compete with us offensively is the Ravens, who probably also might have a special season when it comes to offense.
We'll see what happens. Jordan Love, don't throw a pick this week. Get me even further into the win column here. Currently, it's 5
Love
to 2.
might have a special season. He might be able to join famous Jameis for a 30-30. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm
30-30.
pulling for it. 30-30, boys.
No. Yeah, well, he's on pace for like 48-30.
I don't
So
care as long as he hits 30-30 because that's the number. 30 touchdowns, 30 receptions, or maybe just keep it symmetrical. I'm good at that too.
fuck it.
We'll give him
Get to
40-40.
50. If you get 50 touchdowns, I don't care if you throw 30 interceptions. It's worth it.
He reminds me a lot of like Jameis from those years where it's like people are still trying to figure out. I think he's better than Jameis was, but like, God, he is just crazy.
We'll see. He might rein it in because I mean, the end of last year when he was hot, he was not throwing this many picks.
But see, I think last year he was just making those same throws, maybe a little bit better. Maybe he was a little bit more in tuned and like he was a little bit more accurate, but he was still doing that stuff. He was just not getting, he was getting away with it. So that's why I think he's going to be like kind of hot and cold. I don't think he's like a bad quarterback. I think he makes a lot of risks. So it's not, I don't want to say he's like a bad player. He just, he's willing to take chances that other players are not going to make, even think about. And again, those are situations he might be taking and looking at a pass down the field that's a 40-60 for most players. And he's like, I can do that. He's overconfident at times.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing Stafford used to do. It's the same thing Favre used to do. It's that gunslinger mentality, as I always say. It's it's a stupid catchphrase, but it's true. Those guys, they look at situations that are unfavorable and they're too arrogant themselves and they just think they can do it. And you see him do it all the time. It was like the one backpedaling where he threw the touchdown to Dobbs, where I was like in the corner. I'm like, that gets picked off probably more than it's a touchdown. Like he just threw it up there. For one, that was an incredible pass. I'll give that to him, right? But there's probably a very small percentage of you make an incredible pass there, and then your receiver has to be the only one paying attention because if the DB is paying attention, it's up in the air. You're stopping. The DB just has to put his hand out and knock it over. You're probably more likely to get a pass interference than anything at that point. But it worked, and I can't say it didn't work. He does it. He does it a couple times a week. He does one of those plays, and most time they work.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think hopefully LaFleur can coach him, quarterback coach, whoever that is, can coach him and be like, dude, trust your defense. We don't have to score on every goddamn drive. Like,
Right.
we'll get enough points. Our defense is great this year. Just it's okay if we don't score. We can punt. Don't
Right.
don't do this so aggressively. But it is fun to watch. I'm loving watching it so far.
He makes games fun. That's why I was watching a lot of the Packer game. We were watching both games. Like he was just fun to watch him sling the football. He's got an incredible arm. He's got enough mobility to get out and just get himself in the positions to make those crazy throws. And he's willing to try them. The only other quarterback that I see do that, who's also really good, is probably Jared Allen. He's got a similar mindset to Jared Allen, and it works for Jared Allen. I think Jared Allen's been one of the highest turnover guys in the league too for his whole career, but he does. You
Josh
get
Allen.
away with it when you do so many exceptional things.
Yeah. I mean he's been better this year, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he was always very high in the pick
I think
department.
last year he was close to leading the leagues in interceptions. And a lot of people
Yeah,
are just
he
like,
probably
oh, yeah,
was
he led
most
the
of
league in
his.
interceptions. We still had 40 touchdown passes, so
Yeah.
we don't care.
And he'd also run in like 10 a year too and
Yeah.
50 yards a game running.
Yeah,
Derlin
you get
doesn't
to
do that
pass.
part so much.
When you're that good,
But
you get a pass.
yeah. But yeah, that'll wrap it up. We got our content. We got our bet. We got a show. Any parting words?
Go Lions.
Who you
Oh,
guys?
I got nothing this week.
Who you guys? Oh yeah, you guys got an easy matchup too. Are you playing the
Yeah, we got
Titans?
the Titans.
Yeah.
Trap game though. I mean, I think this team's probably. I don't know. They're. I think they're so pissed at what happened in that Niners game that I think they're going to stay pretty much focused on the Super Bowl this year. But that's the thing. If they're focused on the Super Bowl, they might slip up against a team like the Titans. So I'm not going to
That's
just sit here
true.
that
That
they're
does
going to run them
happen.
over. But
But if
yeah,
they're playing Will Levis, you probably got 2 or 3 picks in the bag. So
Brian Branch start his run for Defensive Player of the
yeah.
Year. Thank you for
Oh,
that, by the way. The Packers traded him to us, basically. They traded
yeah.
us the 45th overall pick. You guys got Jaden Reed, so that wasn't too bad for you.
Yeah, we
with the
can't
Lions
complain about
pick.
that.
But Brian Branch might be the best safety in the league already. He's incredible.
We had good corners. We picked up a good safety this year, so we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do her. We'll call her a show there. Thanks everyone for listening again. Tune in next week. We'll see if we can get Carson's on. We'll see what he's up to post-wedding. Talk to you then.